welcome to Lesson 6 of this course. You are well on your way to mastering Answer the Public now. And in this lesson we'll look at advice and recommendation seeking. But as always, first up, here's a recap of Lesson 5. We looked at the entire question wheel with a real focus on the how branch as an indicator of people looking for knowledge. You learnt how you might prioritise questions to tackle using the green gradient dots to understand which questions are most commonly suggested and therefore most commonly searched. We explored how comparisons and the comparison wheel might surface people searching for information but phrasing their searches in a slightly different way. And finally, we looked at the opportunity for you as a brand or an individual to answer questions that searchers might have and how giving knowledge is almost the expected standard in this age of digital marketing. So on to advice and recommendation seeking. Now, this topic is quite closely linked to the pursuit of knowledge, which we looked at in the previous lesson, but it's a little bit different and that's why it's got its own lesson. When we're looking for advice and recommendations, we're usually a little bit closer to making a purchase than we are when we're seeking information. In fact, when we're seeking information, we might not need to make a purchase at all. We might own the thing that we're searching around already. If we're looking for advice and recommendations, we usually want to take action, be it buying something or doing something else. As with all the previous lessons, we'll be looking at the words and language we use that give away what we're looking for, and where you can find that in an Answer the Public report. In this lesson, we're going to start with the word best. Now, best is not currently a branch within Answer the Public, so you'll need to add it to your seed term to get its value. So to show you what I mean, I've run a report looking at best restaurants. The entire report now should be filled with insights based on people looking for advice and recommendations. And I'd almost take the learnings from the lessons we've covered up till now to start. So remember when we looked at tailoring by preference way back in lesson 2? Well, that methodology, and that's looking at the with and without branches, but this time applied to a term that has best at the start, works here. So doing that and looking at the with and without branch will highlight what specifics people are looking for recommendations around when it comes to the best restaurants. And we can see best restaurants with a view, best restaurants with rooms, best restaurants with outdoor seating, with vegan options, with a terrace, and so on. Equally, the without branch highlights what people see as barriers or stumbling blocks to getting into a best restaurant. So best restaurants without reservations and best restaurants without Michelin star. Back to the for branch and that idea of people tailoring their searches by persona, we can see some literal personas coming through. Best restaurants for vegans, best restaurants for large groups, best restaurants for vegetarians, for kids, but also more lateral personas, so best restaurants for anniversary, best restaurants for Slimming World, for birthdays, and so on. These aren't just personas being surfaced, it's a recommendation-seeking behaviour because we've got that best word in there. And even the aspiration point we talked about in lesson 4 is evident. On the like branch, we can see best restaurants like Barbecue Nation, best restaurants like Cheesecake Factory, and this one made me laugh, but best restaurants like Hooters. So people are using restaurants that they know as anchors to help them access recommendations around the perfect restaurant for them. In terms of use for this best search insight, the point here is that by simply including it in your seed term, you get a wealth of insight around how, what and why people perceive the best thing to be and the recommendations that they're looking for as a result. So if I was opening a restaurant, I would be soaking all of this up and considering if I could cater to the personas, if the features people look for can be built into my restaurant and so on. I'd be trying to launch the best restaurant possible, and this insight would help me to know what people view as the best possible restaurant. Now, you don't just need to use best in your seed to access recommendations and advice. The versus branch on the comparison wheel comes in really useful when trying to understand how people seek out advice and recommendations around one product, service or brand or thing compared to another. I've run a report based on iPhone to demonstrate this. On both the versus and the VS, so shorthand branches, you can see all the products people want to compare the iPhone to. iPhone versus Samsung, versus Android, versus Huawei, versus S10, and so on. Interestingly, some people will specify what exact feature they want to compare, so iPhone versus Samsung camera. But the point here is that this isn't just a comparison for comparison's sake. This is people who are probably going to buy a product at some point in the near-ish future, who are very much in that research phase and they're looking for advice and recommendations to help them make an informed decision and get the best product for whatever it is they need. Again, this idea or method translates into other industries, so people look for advice and recommendations in travel too. So if I run a report on Rome, you can see on those comparison branches again, things like Rome or Paris, Rome or Venice, Rome or Florence, and so on. And again, like before, when we could see specifics being drawn out in the comparisons, there are terms like Rome or Venice in December and Rome or Venice in October. All of this is people seeking out recommendations or advice as to where they go. As a brand or business owner, I'd be recognising the parameters around which people are looking for recommendations, and then actually looking at what recommendations are made online in order to understand the competitive landscape from the point of view of real people. By the way, don't forget that you can click through to see the Google search result pages for any term on an Answer the Public wheel to see exactly that. So if I want to see what advice is given when someone searches Rome or Budapest, I can click and see that there's an exact thread on this on TripAdvisor. I could click and read all of that to understand the advice people are giving, or I can take a look in any of the other forums or articles that are surfaced here. There's the Rick Steves Travel Forum, Versus.com, Foda's Forum, Quora, and so on. I'd hope that within all this content there are things that I can use, be it in my messaging or how I package certain products up. Let's try that as a task right now. Task: run an Answer the Public report for a product or service relevant to your business. Take a look at the comparison wheel and find something that interests you, ideally something where you'd like to understand what advice is being given. Now, click on that term and take a look at the Google results page. Spend 5 minutes clicking through and reading what recommendations have been made. After that, consider what you've learnt about the advice being given. Is there anything you can build into your business or marketing plans? So that's it for lesson 6. You've learnt that using best in your seed term will help you get to advice or recommendation seeking terms much more quickly. That combining the learnings from the previous lessons with that best seed will surface insights. That people perform comparison searches in order to get to advice or recommendations around certain products or brands, and even specific features of those products and brands. You've also learned that by clicking on a term from an Answer the Public wheel, you can see the Google search results for that term, and that when doing so for terms that indicate someone's looking for advice or recommendations, reading through the forums and content pieces that Google serves up can be a huge source of insight, which can help you to understand how the public is making recommendations around whatever comparison someone has searched for.